Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daychuck with Queen Bee Creations, and today we are going to be remaking this old wreath. Now, here's the thing when you're thrifting. You know, a lot of times you see these things are sitting on the shelf, they don't look like much. But what attracted me to this was not the orange ribbon or the florals, but this base. So sometimes you have to look past some of the other elements. Now, one of the things that with something like this that I look for is if I remove all of this, how much damage would there be to the actual base itself, to the piece? Meaning, you know, is this all sometimes overly glued and it's lodged on? You're going to be breaking some of the branches. I mean, I get that these are really thick and durable, but you're going to be yanking off a bunch of bark, and if they're smaller, you might be breaking off a lot of things. So how much damage is there going to be? In this case, we're really not talking about, well, I'm just throwing this out so I can just cut this off. We're not talking about a big hardship, because this is actually just a wired, like this is just a round centerpiece that has been wired in there. So I just need to snip it off, and then it's done. Now, I'm not necessarily throwing, I was going to say throwing it out. Well, I am going to throw out some of it. So I keep some of the smaller pieces that are still good or worthwhile. Some are a little too worn. I mean, like, you know, like this pick would be worth keeping because it's okay. So I will take it apart and I will save those components. I'll get rid of the round base because I would never use that anyway. And then I'm left with this, and how gorgeous is this? So my thinking is that I want to be doing a little bit more, you know, spring to summer stuff, just because we're kind of toward the end of winterish. So, but I also want to leave a lot of this exposed because it's gorgeous. So I'm thinking maybe just florals along the bottom, and then ribbon to hang it from is kind of where I'm going. And again, in keeping with Thrifted, I've got some bundles, you can see them all taped together, that I have thrifted, and I'm thinking staying in some of the softer colors, but I have some pieces that will, you know, soften it and maybe add some different dimension or texture, you know, I don't know, maybe like this. I have some of these guys. So I just pulled from the stash, and we'll just kind of play together. So what I'm going to do is flip you up to be able to see it a little bit sideways here, so that you've got a little bit of a better view of some of the planning stages, and we'll go from there. But this is fun stuff. Now, before I start anything, one of the things that I look for in the base is kind of the shape and the size. Is it skewed? You know, is one side fatter? And definitely this side is, this end is just a little bit bulkier. So it also happens to have most of the cut ends on it, in which case I want to sort of hide those, and therefore I'm going to make this my bottom, and that's where most of my florals are going to be. And then this part at the top is where I can hang it, and then that way all my florals are going to hide all of these cut ends, and it's going to look quite uniform. And as well, this being the fatter end is just going to emphasize all of my florals. Now, to start with anything like this, I like to start with kind of my main flowers first, just getting an idea. And I'm going to cut these off longer than I need, just from the perspective of I can cut them down, but I can't make them longer. And I just want to make sure that I have enough space. And I'm cutting 3 off to start because I do have other florals, and you know, usually I'm kind of going from a, all right, I need them shorter already just to even be able to see. But I'm going to keep, I want to cut it by, because I'm going to be cutting off the leaf. So I want to cut it above that so that I can still use the leaf as a pick. But if I'm roughly setting this up, let me do the same here. Oh my goodness. That's a tough one. There we go. And I just want to kind of roughly put them into place, getting an idea of where I might place them. Because where I think and where all of my wood allows me to go is sometimes going to be very different. So potentially starting there to begin with. And that's one of the things. I'm looking at these because they're a different shape. These pale pink blooms are very similar in shape, and I like having contrast. So these ones look a little more carnation-like, but let's see if I have a there you are. I'm thinking this is a better one. Okay. Now you can see I started with 3 because usually for most of your design elements, you know, think in terms of odd numbers, right? As you're adding your blooms in, you know, having 3 to 7 of any particular floral generally is a good way to start. Now already I'm kind of going, but I like to get an idea of the placement of my main flowers first. I'm not sure about this. Got so much wood to work around here. And again, bearing in mind, I want to have a fair bit of greenery in this, but I am thinking of some of these guys. So let me cut through this. I like having elements that are close, but I then like having elements that are moving off in other directions. And we'll cut one off. Kind of. And I just want to get an idea without sticking anything in as to how that looks. Now, I would build that in before I'd put any greenery. But you see what I'm saying in terms of some of the spikiness would maybe fit in there. But I want it coming lower. There we go. So I'm thinking that kind of works with some of those. And I don't want to go up much higher, but I could do maybe 2 of these or 2 of these. Oh, and this is where we go. Okay, let me keep playing and moving things around. When it comes to start actually laying these in, what I like to do is start with my 3 main florals. And then I'm going to look at that laying down 2 of my longest strands. I'm using some eucalyptus here so that I can do some of my florals over top. And I can get these ones kind of roughly attached in before I start doing anything else. I just want to make sure I have them in a couple of spots. We'll get these 2 in, and then we'll look at adding some of our others. Now that I have some of the main eucalyptus down, I want to add in just these 3 other kind of, I don't know, carnation-y flowers. I just don't know my flowers at all. Okay, so I want 2 on the sides and kind of coming down. And then this one is going to sit in here, but I think this is a little too long for it. Oh. So this one sits maybe up a little higher, right up in there. There we go. So far, it's looking like this, and I wanted that curve happening, right? So, lovely. Now, I'm gonna add a little bit of greenery in there so that it doesn't get all lost. So some additional greens, and see how full that makes it before I start looking at whether I need more florals. I chose to finish this off just with a bit of a rustic ribbon. It's pink burlap, soft pink with a little bit of a gold edging. And then this becomes the finished wreath. So one of the things that I did do strategically was have this so that it's curving down so that we've got a lot of this wood showing, because that's what makes this stand out. That's what makes this special. If I covered this all with florals all the way around, you wouldn't see any of this. Save that for the ugly wreaths. Save that for the ugly bases. You can see that I added a few of those little spikes in there just to add a little bit of a contrasting color. We filled in our eucalyptus a tiny little bit up here, just poking through to kind of balance it off. And that's it. It didn't take much in terms of florals, really. And again, the rustic kind of nature is juxtaposed with those soft florals, which I love that kind of contrast, more so than if I'd gone with reds or really bold colors. Not saying it would look bad, just saying I prefer it this way. So let me know what you think of this, guys, and definitely keep an eye out for potential bases in the thrift stores where there may be topped with some not so lovely florals, and you know, your eye just wants to skip past them. Those parts can be taken away, and then you can create something lovely from it. Looking forward to hearing from you on this one, as always, and definitely looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Until then, take care.